Welcome. Thank you guys for joining. I think some of you guys know me already. I mean, it's not like as many people in here, obviously, but I'm recording this anyway. So I just want to start. I'm Nate. I talk about metabolism, digestion, intuition, aesthetics. I like making videos. About a year ago, I started experiencing major issues with digestion, and it wasn't really even just out of the blue. It's really my whole life, I think, that built up to it, and it just manifested itself right now. I started experiencing a extreme pain in my abdomen. Didn't know what it was. I also started getting acid reflux, bloating, and these things just I didn't experience up until about a year ago. Trying to figure out what it was. It took me a while to even figure out what food was triggering it. I would have it sometimes fluctuate throughout the day with the pain in my gut region, and just could not figure out what it was. And I eventually figured out that it was probably potatoes. Potatoes are slowly digested. The starch in potatoes actually breaks down and ferments in the stomach. Um, and essentially what this does is bacteria can overgrow and cause all sorts of issues with digestion. But in the first place, when I was feeling all these issues, just the pain of it, the thing about it is it completely impairs your ability to think. Brain fog, bloating, all of it goes together. Depression, anxiety, all of this goes together. And this is what I was experiencing, but I was just trying to think of why food in particular would give me an issue that is this severe. I mean, I always thought of myself as healthy um, until I started facing issues even before the digestion with hair loss. So I was getting crazy hair shedding, didn't know what it was, getting bloating. I was cold all the time. And I eventually figured out that all these things are connected to thyroid. And the more that I realized, any issue that I was ever facing is all connected to the thyroid. And I kind of took this in at the time and didn't really know, I guess, where to go, what to do with it, um, until my digestion got as bad as it did. So it was really just got to the point where the gut pain became so severe that I literally had to just cut out all food for 3 days and just eliminate everything. Just the thing that I did was just have bone broth only. I literally lost just like tons of weight that I did not want to lose. But, I was really forced to at that point. I could not really do much of anything. It was painful walking. So what I did was figure out what I could reintroduce. So what I started with was, just researching, and the main thing that seems like it's digestible, doesn't ferment, would be beef or red meat. Meat in general is generally safe. This is the thing about people doing carnivore diet. There's reasons not to do carnivore diet, and I actually understood this at the time. But even though the symptoms that I was experiencing were as bad as they were, I had to do it. So really what I did was eat meat, as in red meat, eggs, bone broth. Then I started to add in, after a little while, I tried adding like vegetables or stuff, like well cooked. I was just experimenting, not really knowing what would work. Fruit at this point would give me extreme pain. And that's how I knew that I think I had a bacterial overgrowth issue. And this made me think, I don't know how I can keep going with just this only meat diet. Like, I knew the issue of not eating carbs. So what I did was ended up just trying to figure out what fruit could be most tolerable, looking through all types of charts online. There's the FODMAP. I'm not really adhering to any sort of thing like that now, but that is something that genuinely helped. So what I did was eat blueberries, strawberries, and those seemed to be fine, honestly. So that's how I got a bulk of my carbohydrates for a while. It was just, like I said, eating all other foods like red meat, eggs, bone broth. Then I started adding in like shrimp, shellfish, oysters. Those also seem to help a lot. And over time, it's just like even with eating this diet that should minimize all of the issues that I was experiencing, things were just still going so poorly. Like just experiencing the bloating, the really just the effect on the mood and brain. You know, it really is all interconnected. And this is what I was coming to realize is that thyroid is the entire regulator of life in the sense of life is a flow. Thyroid promotes the flow. You know, these toxins, these stressors, they prevent the flow. So just seeing it in this lens, it just made so much sense. The digestive issue is the thyroid issue. The thyroid issue is the environment issue. Um, so again, after a few months of just like eating this strict diet, I was like, I cannot keep this low carb, and it wasn't really even low carb, but I just did not feel like I was eating enough food because I would just get symptoms, honestly, and it was just tough to even deal with mentally, just like feeling depressed for reasons that I knew were physical. So the thing that was tough was just figuring out what to eat that wouldn't trigger that. And another thing that I figured out was orange juice. Orange juice from the store, from conventional stores, would give me acid reflux. So that's why I thought, oh, okay, shouldn't drink orange juice. I found out that just getting a good quality orange juice, I had no issues. And that made me realize that the orange juice in stores with all the added enzymes and the different excipients and processing, the poor quality sour oranges, not the sweet oranges, are actually the issue, you know? So that actually became another good source of food that I was eating, and again helped to support the process of just minimizing harm. You know, promoting energy, just slowly increasing, slowly improving. Um, and after a while, honestly, the SIBO type issues, the bacterial overgrowth type issues, honestly started going away from the diet. And the thing that's crazy is I forgot to mention is with the bone broth, I also ate gelatin. So gelatin, I made a few videos about that, but the main thing is that it's rich in proline and glycine. Glycine is the most important thing. Um, but really, gelatin just helps to heal the gut in several ways. So that was one of the things that actually helped to remove bloating. So one of the things that helped to just, I think, seal the lining, honestly, when I was in the middle of minimizing harm, cutting out things that were causing issues, whatnot. So that really facilitated it. But just going back to the idea of like, what is the importance of food in the first place in terms of why is there an issue with digestion? And I think that the idea of thinking of like Ray Pete said, like our intestine is our connection to the universe. Like there's a reason it's called a gut feeling. There's a reason that it's called something coming out of second nature. There's a reason that none of this is metaphorical. It's all real. Like, well, it is really when we are connected to the flow of energy, life comes naturally. And this is what gets taken away when we have an issue with the conversion of energy, digestion. There's a reason that when things become static in our body, we lose connection to the higher power or higher ideation, divine power. We lose connection to life, honestly. Um, and that's the idea of what evil is. You know, this is turning you away from good. You know, this is the war that is literally fought between digestion. It's I made a video about this actually. You know, I titled it "The Flow of Energy is the War Between Good and Evil," and it's it just blew my mind. It really did because it makes so much sense. Yet we don't think of things in this sense. You know, um, but again, why would things go wrong in the first place? This is what I was trying to ask myself, and ultimately, I really do think it just comes back to the environmental stressors that were introduced. I don't think that anything about the issues we're experiencing is natural. think of the things that we're doing. We're living longer, in worse health. I don't know how you can explain that other than this derives from evil. Like, honestly, if you could, okay, so you could say this derives from greed, but what is greed? It's preservation. So what's preservation? Preservation is impairing the flow of energy. It's trying to pool resources somewhere. Abundance is maintaining the flow of energy. You know, think of all the things we do. Think of all the stressors we're exposed to. Think of the medications. Think of the early youth environment. Think of the culture. All of this plays a role in lowering digestive function, lowering systemic energy production. That's what leads to the issues. So gut function is life function. The same forces that regulate your drive, the ability to take action, see things through to the end. Like, these are the same forces that regulate your entire existence. So this is why physical digestion is no different than mental, emotional, spiritual digestion. When shit goes wrong, this is literal and figurative. So if we see the idea of environmental stressors are the thing that cause these issues from the start, what exactly about it? So stress of any kind, diverts blood flow away from the digestive system, away from the reproductive system. Oh my God, my voice. And towards the more essential organs, so towards the heart and brain to keep us going. Makes sense. So also, though, when um, less energy is being produced by the body because of the stressors, structure is depleted. So resources get wasted because of this, and this is where the stress hormones come in to facilitate. This is where cortisol rises, and these stress hormones actually also further deplete the production of digestive enzymes, different things that can help to produce stomach acid, same thing. Um, and all of this leads to food coming into your body and sitting undigested in the gut. And then when this food is sitting there, this is again where the stress mediators step in to try to deal with it. But this ends up causing further damage. Estrogen, endotoxin, nitric oxide, all these things that lead to inflammation and damage to the capillaries, damage to the blood vessels, they actually cause leakage of these toxins into the bloodstream. So when this happens, this is when we experience the brain fog, acid reflux, bloating, autoimmune issues like skin issues, oral health, body odor. All of these issues stem from the gut. Think of the toxins that are leaking through because the capillaries are leaky because they have been damaged by the stress. It really does make sense if you think of it like the structure is depleted because the energy is depleted. This is Ray Peat's idea. Energy and structure are interdependent at every level. The crazy thing is anxiety, depression, any mood disorder, I truly believe comes from this at the start. Brute de Force did a space about the gut, and I never actually heard it until now. And it's just so crazy that we all arrive at these same conclusions, just with enough experience. So why is it that stress can destroy one person's digestion, but another person is completely fine? This is where we need to understand the context of a person's history. Epigenetics, aka family history, environmental stressors throughout their life. Were they C-section baby? Because that affects digestion. How many medications did they take? Their nutrition. Did they get sun exposure? All these things add up to the metabolism. And if they're inadequate, this is what creates low metabolism, low thyroid, which is essentially just low energy production systemically, and caused by all these life stressors. So when the flow of energy is slowed, this would make sense that we're experiencing issues at a systemic level. So the thing that central medicine gets wrong, or Western medicine, is treating the symptoms of these systemic issues. But they actually don't get it wrong because they get it right. That was their goal. Their goal was to treat the symptoms. And I think everyone in this space probably gets the idea. But the thing is, it's when there's anything that prevents or slows the flow of energy or makes things static, this will cause things to go wrong in every single way possible. This cycle feeds itself. Low energy production means the immune system isn't energized, digestive system isn't energized. The static allows for the propagation of bad bacteria. Endotoxin, aka the buildup of waste, damages the system, and this is all literally draining energy. And when I thought of this whole idea on a metaphysical level, it just completely changed my view of the world. Life itself, like the things that are good or divine or godly, higher consciousness, it's all a part of a constant flow of energy. It's a constant change. Nothing is permanent besides change. That's what Heraclitus said. And anything that impairs this flow, needing things to be static or one certain way, literally turns a person away from good. Like, this is the idea of evil. And again, I made that video titled The Flow of Energy is the War Between Good and Evil. But again, this idea just blew my mind. And William Blake had a quote, the cistern contains, the fountain overflows. I just posted a little picture of that or whatever. And this idea just absolutely embodies this whole way of seeing life. So just going into physical practices to help to improve digestion and things that actually could help me get out of that fight or flight state of blood flow being directed away from the digestive system and just low enzyme production, low stomach acid. The main thing that I could think about for practices would be really taking deep breaths, 10 to 20 deep breaths right before eating, to truly calm down and allow your body to actually produce digestive enzymes. I like to do 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out, about 20 times. I think this is pretty crucial. Digestive bitters are also great for stimulating digestion, or lemon juice, lime juice before a meal. Digestive enzymes, I do think they can make a big difference. And really, I don't know exactly if the brands really matter. I think any would probably be helpful. People talk about betaine for stomach acid, and things that it promote bile, like ox bile or tudka, taurine, or other things that stimulate bile for fat digestion. If you feel like you're having issues digesting fat or slowing motility, or you're seeing oil on the stool or whatnot, that could be looked at for things like dealing with fat malabsorption, which usually comes from burden on the liver because the gallbladder isn't really recycling through. I mean, there is more that I can get. I mean, I don't actually know exactly about how it goes, but another thing that I think could also help people is honestly vitamin D. Obviously most people have low vitamin D in the United States. I don't really know about any places other in the world, but if you're getting sunlight and vitamin D is still low, I think using 5,000 IU or so every day in olive oil rather than MCT, because MCT could be irritating. I think that could be helpful. Also, using that with vitamin K could be very helpful. For some people, that could literally be enough when it comes to supplements for their gut. But when it's really bad, obviously you need more. But vitamin K also helps to prevent the oxygenation of the gut. Same thing with vitamin A, actually. So I guess liver could be good for some people for that reason. Now that I'm thinking of it, but some more practices that I could think of would just be eating whole meals, leaving time to digest between meals to allow for digestion to occur. Because when digestion is slowed, it's important to not keep eating and pretty much slowing the process. It needs to really upregulate over time, is what I found. So um, I generally eat 4 meals, leave like 3 hours between each meal, 3 4 hours. Chewing mastic gum before or after can actually really benefit. I noticed benefits from that. Walking after meals, standing throughout the day, not sitting as much, and definitely not laying down. Like, legitimately not laying down throughout the day, I think is something that could be extremely therapeutic for someone who is like sitting too much. Because I noticed firsthand in a poor digestion state, laying down or sitting down can literally be the thing that really fucks things up. So some more things that I can think about is really not eating too late in the day also. So if I go to bed at like 12, I'd have my last meal at 8. And this was honestly able to improve bloating a lot, just over time, especially. Sleeping on my left side also made a huge difference. I didn't love it since I like sleeping on my back, but I kind of needed to. It really did help. So also, if you can sleep on an incline, either with a stack of pillows or prop up the end of your bed frame with pieces of wood or something similar, that I find can also be good, because when you have the issues with the gut, the reflux, and when you're laying down on your back during the night, again, this can damage the esophagus, damage your system. So it's like keeping that inclined, keeping the bed inclined can also be helpful. So that's just really as far as like practices go. But when it comes to interventions, just getting rid of the roadblocks that are preventing the flow of energy is essentially the most important idea. The idea is preventing harm or just impairment of this to allow for healing. So healing can't occur if damage is still happening. So for most people, if you're eating indigestible processed foods, drinking, eating PUFA, all of these things impair the flow of energy, oppose thyroid, cause inflammation, and damage the gut lining through this also. Endotoxin, the waste from food, like I said earlier, can leak into the bloodstream, causing these inflammatory reactions. People talk about leaky gut. Leaky gut is really just an overload of endotoxin. Your gut lining, I think, can be healed relatively quickly, through various means, but just really gelatin is what helped me. There's other things you can do, but that to me is, I think, one of the most therapeutic things that you could look at first. But they're really just avoiding the harm of indigestible foods is the thing that allows for repair to occur. So this is where it would be an elimination diet. This is where I cut everything out, and really just started from scratch. So it was actually beef, eggs, bone broth, and gelatin. It was like 2 tablespoons with every meal, essentially, or that or bone broth. I really do think they help to heal the gut lining. I also do more than just that. And like I said, I sort of talked about that a little bit already. Shrimp, oysters, and then this is where I started adding in the fruits. This is something that's, I think, more complicated for people, because dealing with symptoms, this is one of the most difficult things to figure out what you're able to tolerate, or figuring out what actually causes issues. Because I think it gets difficult to pinpoint exactly what it is. So that's why starting, I think, with the elimination is the really only way you can get anywhere. So for me, it was just starting with like the strawberries, blueberries, then orange juice. But again, needs to be good quality, because the poor quality orange juice will cause issues. But good quality orange juice, completely absorbable, completely digestible. Um, so really, just after doing this for a little while, the SIBO, or bacterial overgrowth, like pain, like the type of like sharp pain issue, it honestly started to improve. And from there, when I was at that point, I really was looking for more food to eat that would be able to sustain me, because I really just was not able to eat as much food as I needed to. And I found out that simple sugars, like raw honey in particular, could be absorbed before they reach the small intestine and cause issues with the bacteria. So I had a high quality raw honey. Um, and again, I was thinking, like, I don't know if I try this. I am kind of worried this is going to cause issues. But again, I read that it could be absorbed before it reaches the small intestine, and the indigestible parts actually make it down to the make it through the intestine and help with modulating bacteria. And this, to me, I knew that people have honey. I knew it was therapeutic or whatever. I didn't know that it could help to deal with bacteria. So I think this is one of the things that made me want to try it, along with the fact of seeing that it got absorbed easily. So I just decided to try raw honey one time, and it's this brand Crystal's Raw Honey that I found. It's pretty close to me geographically, pretty local, so it is. I've tried probably 20 different honeys at this point, and it, I think, is by far the best taste wise, and for digestion, for honestly skin too. I just break out from eating sugar or anything, and I honestly didn't really find this issue. And I think the thing about honey being so therapeutic was, again, it's just that it's absorbed before it reaches the point where it can cause bloating, acid reflux, all these issues. And I ate honey and had no bloating, had no pain, and I could not believe it. And I just kept trying to increase it, kept trying to have more honey, and I was not finding any issues, honestly. And it just, I think, became a big part of my diet. I was just consuming a huge amount of honey because I was able to digest it. It wasn't causing me pain, and I think that in itself is the main thing. Thinking of things that do not cause more pain and do not impair the flow. So when I thought of it on that level, it made sense why it was therapeutic. Again, there's the issue, or there's the factor of, okay, it can modulate bacteria. Maybe that is helpful too, but I really do think having just a digestible source of food is one of the most important things. So again, I wrote a thread about honey. If you just look up my name and honey, it should probably come up. I sort of just talked about what I just said right here, but back to the metabolism, it's like when thyroid is low, gut motility is slow, or it could be too fast in the case of diarrhea. So in the case of like slow motility, though, this is when things can ferment. So food is just sitting in the stomach and or sitting in the gut, and bacteria is able to ferment it, create gas, and this causes issues and can damage and prevent healing. And at the very least, avoiding these indigestible foods, consuming only digestible foods like what I said here, like the beef, the eggs, the all of them, just the easily digestible carbs for you. All of these things, just by not allowing anything to ferment, I think this in itself can be one of the healing factors, and at the very least, free you up more of an ability to think. Since when your gut is really inflamed, just the serotonin, the nitric oxide, endotoxin, it is almost impossible to not feel like you are stuck in quicksand, because that is literally what's happening in your body, and you are stuck. Like, I'm sure people can relate to this, but it's just, if you don't feel like you have control, um, it's just it's true. Like, it's your body is not functioning. You do not have any control over it. It's just the whole thing feeds itself. It's that learned helplessness, and really, when you're in that state, anything that lowers serotonin can be highly therapeutic. So, and just sort of overall protect the gut and sort of energizes it. And I think by far the number one thing for helping with this was gelatin. I literally ate, like I said, 2 tablespoons of gelatin with every meal. So This was, I think, the single most important one substance to heal my gut. And, I like I said, I made some videos about gelatin recently. But to sum it up briefly, it's rich in glycine and proline, which are most of the benefits for gut function. Healing the gut lining, other benefits too, though, increases GABA. It's deficient in tryptophan. Since tryptophan gets synthesized into serotonin, I think this could have also played a role. It could have been helpful. But some other things that really did help with bloating were niacinamide. Niacinamide improves the NAD to NADH ratio, promotes glucose metabolism, aka CO2 production, aka oxidative phosphorylation. Um, and CO2 in itself could help with gut motility. And, I'll actually mention niacinamide again later. But niacinamide also opposes serotonin and other stress hormones as well. So, experimenting with that, 500 milligrams once or several times a day could be good. Vitamin K, MK4, like 1 to 2 milligrams, also powerfully lowers bloating for me. And I'm not exactly sure of the mechanism behind this, besides that it just helps to stop oxygenating the gut. And besides that, it just is also, it's a quinone, electron acceptor, essentially, can oppose estrogen, be good for steroid production, dissolve calcification, like regulate calcium. Just it has a good amount of overall benefits. I think vitamin K is a good thing overall, not just for the gut. Another thing to help lower bloating though is cyproheptadine. So cyproheptadine, it's antihistamine. Um, the main thing that it really does is antagonize serotonin directly and helps to lower bloating. Really, just allow you to escape that sort of serotonergic, sort of stuck, hibernating, wanting to preserve, trying to help get you out of that. All these things, that's the goal to really achieve. To free you up to be able to improve the issues, go back to the flow. Um, this is one thing. Again, it powerfully lowers cortisol also, so you can really feel tired after using it, and it's also anticholinergic. So for people with slow motility, this is something to be aware of. It can slow gut motility by being anticholinergic, but it also really can help to get out of that like bloated serotonergic state. So it could be therapeutic. And also, it's a calcium channel blocker. Like I said, antihistamine could help deal with some of the downstream effects of poor metabolism and digestion. So, really, by avoiding harm, eating a non-irritating diet, symptoms, like I said, just literally start going away slowly but surely. It just was several months, and it still seems like there's work to do, but over time, these ideas are literally proving to be effective. I did not feel like I could take any action. I didn't feel like I had any drive, and I knew that something was deeply wrong. And I am literally the proof now of the fact that this stuff is physical. I'm dealing with my digestion. I'm able to do things again. I'm able to do shit literally and figuratively. It is that, it is that serious, but I'm still not perfect. There can still be improvement. I just want to make that clear, but this is just what has helped me so far, so really preventing harm, that I think is the number one thing. And then after that is maximizing the flow of energy. Things that speed transit time through the gut, increase gut motility, or regulate it properly if it's too fast. Allow for proper enzymatic production and digestion. Some of the B vitamins can be crucial for people. Looking into vitamin B1, increases CO2, promotes stomach acid production. Niacinamide, also similar, as I mentioned earlier, energizes the gut. And really, all the B vitamins play crucial roles in metabolism, and they're often overlooked, but could make a big difference. Could be like a good first thing to start with. And it really just does. I think another thing was CO2, was just thinking about the production of CO2 with better metabolism. Thinking about that as something that helps to build structure and reinforce the energy. The idea energy and structure are interconnected. CO2, I see as the piece in that puzzle that structures things and allows for the increase. I really do think that that can help to improve digestive production. Improve like the transit time through the gut, and I guess just being aware of CO2. Or I wrote a thread on CO2, and I also made a post about it on Instagram on how to increase it. But really, just optimizing thyroid is the main thing. But if you really want to raise it in the short term, things like bag breathing for 1 to 2 minutes in and out, that can help to increase CO2. Carbonated water. People say avoid carbonated water with gut issues. I do not think that could be further from the good advice. I have seen so much benefit from drinking more carbonated water, and I'll actually talk about that in a little bit. But again, I think that's a good thing to just be aware of, the idea of CO2 being helpful in digestion overall. So things that speed transit time through the gut. Like I said, I know a lot of people talk about coffee being a laxative. I actually tend to think coffee should be fully avoided until the gut is improved. And I hate to say it, but it just seems too stimulating for the gut and doesn't fully allow healing to occur, in my experience. And if you're dealing with gut issues, just rocking up and down between high and low really just is not a good place to be. So I'd be careful with caffeine. Probably careful with nicotine too. People also say that promotes like peristalsis or gut motility. Um, I have been experimenting with it recently. I mean, I think that now that I'm further along, it seems okay and helpful. But again, I probably wouldn't have been experimenting if my gut was in a worse place. So that's things to be aware of. But in my opinion, the best starting place for promoting peristalsis, proper regulation, is insoluble fiber. So the number one place that I'd say for that is Ray Pete's carrot salad. I'm sure most of us in here already know, but I'll still explain it. So just the carrot by nature is antibiotic by being a vegetable that grows in the ground, a root vegetable. So when you add, I didn't even explain. So the recipe is carrot, one medium carrot, grated lengthwise, tossed in coconut oil or olive oil with white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon or a tablespoon of both of those, and then pinch salt. So the thing about the coconut oil or the olive oil is that either of those are antimicrobial, and also promote gut transit. And vinegar is also antiseptic, or antimicrobial, whatever you want to call it. So this sort of trinity can work to deal with bacteria, actually regulate hormones, pull toxins out. People talk about it for like the pulling out estrogen, increasing progesterone. Actually, probably that's another beneficial idea of the carrot salad, probably relating to digestion. But just by nature of the carrot being insoluble, can promote motility mechanically. So literally, that the insoluble nature of it means it doesn't really get digested, which in this case is actually good, since it can't really ferment, and can move things through the gut. And I know the topic of fiber and gut health is like extremely polarizing or whatever. I see people go like no fiber. That seems to help for diarrhea more so, somewhat for constipation. But speaking of my experience, increasing only insoluble fiber, not soluble, has helped tremendously. But I still wouldn't go too crazy with fiber, especially just in one meal, since that could back things up potentially. And actually, in my case, the carrot salad used to seem like it either was irritating my gut or just wasn't really helpful. That was until I had a very profound string of events. Took LSD. LSD is anti-serotonergic. This is, I think, where the mental effects from LSD come. But also during that time, I only consumed carbonated water, and honey. Those are the two things that I had. Well, three things. So I woke up the next day, just decided to eat half of a carrot salad between breakfast and lunch. And I just decided, whatever reason, that I just shouldn't eat as much of it. And also, I decided to chew it like super thoroughly. It completely worked and just helped with improving the digestion. And I honestly think that after that point, my digestion completely changed. And that just really made me think about just that combination of like the LSD carbonated water, which I actually found by itself actually started really helping. But also the honey with that and the anti-serotonin. My digestion's changed so much after that experiment uh, or experience. Improved so much that I think I'm going to talk about that more just because it was so profound. But back to fiber, it's like again more sources of insoluble fibers. So the carrot salad, the 1 carrot grated lengthwise, 1 tablespoon of olive oil or extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, and a pinch of salt. Um, as well as well cooked white button mushrooms. That's also good for insoluble fiber. Boiled for 1 to 3 hours to get rid of the hydrazine toxin in mushrooms. And a lot of people like to grind it up in like a blender or something, just to really just help the mechanical aspect of it. That can be good having it with like a meal every day. Same thing with the carrot salad. It's good to have that every day between meals, just to maintain its benefits. So another one, well cooked bamboo shoots. Blueberries is another good source of insoluble fiber. Some well cooked vegetables, aka boiled for like 10 to 30 minutes, could be okay since some do have insoluble fiber. But yeah, I know that's controversial, but I did actually see benefit from gut motility from eating a cup of peas with like two of my meals or whatever, just like almost every single day for like a month. And I'm not really that like frequent with the fiber now, besides the carrot salad. But insoluble fiber just seems to play a huge role. Um, so next would be like any pro motility agent or essentially laxative. But mainstream laxatives, I'm not a fan of. I don't think anyone should use conventional laxatives. I think at best they don't help, and at worst they actually make things much worse. But instead, using things like magnesium, magnesium water is what I prefer, or magnesium. There's different forms that people use that seem to have different benefits. Magnesium citrate as a laxative, I think, is the most beneficial. Like 400 milligrams, maybe in the morning with the liquid. But be careful to not use magnesium citrate too often, since it can cause you to lose calcium through the urine. And generally, this is what's bad about citrate supplements. So, for this reason, I actually prefer making the magnesium water. Like I said, so that's essentially magnesium hydroxide, which is also known as milk of magnesia. You just have that, have carbonated water. I usually use like a liter of carbonated water. I get the milk of magnesia, measure like 15 milliliters. I think it's like 15 milliliters for 1 liter. And then, that ratio can change for more or less. But open it up, pour the milk of magnesia in, but actually before that, take a sip of the carbonated water because it will sort of not boil over, but what do you call it, like foam over. Um, so pour the magnesium in, shake it up for a minute or so. Then after that, put it in the fridge and take it out leave that for like 15 minutes. Then what you have is the magnesium hydroxide reacting with the carbonated water. So then you end up with magnesium bicarbonate. It's completely absorbable. And I will just drink that throughout the day. It's really concentrated. with like a lot of magnesium. So it's good to be careful and not just fucking like glug the whole thing. But I'll drink that throughout the day. Sometimes I'll drink more, but when you do have a lot of it, it will become a laxative. You will have like diarrhea type. And but I think just magnesium is really important to metabolism overall, and obviously everyone knows how we're magnesium deficient now. We need to supplement it, this, that. But I think it should just really be thought of as a vital piece to like the puzzle of metabolism and digestion. Like most people probably don't know about how when you're hypothyroid, you lose magnesium extremely easily. And that's why supplementing it in a hypothyroid state is essential. And when you have a better thyroid function, you can hold on to magnesium and receive the benefits of it. So magnesium is a good thing. And drinking the magnesium water has had huge benefit for me. So you can also look into Cascara sagrada as laxative, which has a lot of other metabolic benefits. It powerfully lowers cortisol too. I think it's actually the best or like the most potent natural substance to lower cortisol. It's the active ingredient amodin that opposes 11 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase, something like that. I forget the exact enzyme or whatever, but I think other things for laxatives could be like aloe vera juice, coffee enemas are also things to try. But I have yet to try myself. But I have heard that people do benefit from using those on a semi-regular basis. Um, and then further, you can really just get really deep into things with antimicrobial agents and trying to essentially nuke the gut and just nuke the bad bacteria causing issues. I definitely am not suited to advise anyone on the herbs, but I do know that things like oregano oil, neem, berberine, allicin, which is what is in garlic, are some herbal antimicrobials. Even activated charcoal can help to bind and detoxify. Could be beneficial for people to try like a gram or several grams actually. That could be beneficial for some people, but also, things like I said earlier, coconut oil is antimicrobial. So caprylic acid in coconut oil, you could actually try that out isolated, since coconut oil could be irritating for some people. I would stay away from black cumin or black seed oil, honestly, or at the very least, be extremely careful, since I've seen people have some issues that arise with that regarding serotonin, increasing serotonin. Like I said, activated charcoal or clay or different binders could be used to bind to the toxins that you're excreting as they're dying off when you are killing the bacteria. So that could help to deal with the symptoms that you're getting and really just help to detoxify, get all of the shit out. There are some other things dealing with parasites and fungal issues. Like I do know that flowers of sulfur is something that people look into. The I forget what it's called. Fenbazidol. You guys know what I'm talking about if you have seen the past few days. Whatever dog dewormer. That's another thing that it seems like people are looking into right now. But going even further, looking into traditional antibiotics like the penicillins, tetracyclines, macrolides, the antibiotics to really clear the bacteria could be something to pay attention to or something to consider. Actually, the macrolides are, yeah, I believe the macrolides can actually promote motility if that's an issue, and the penicillins seem to be helpful for people with diarrhea or whatever. Really just trying to understand your context and what you are comfortable doing, I think is vital. Just listen to your intuition, because I think ultimately, even though these issues are hard to solve, hard to understand, I do think that your intuition will lead you in the right direction. It's done nothing but benefit me. So I think Danny Roddy has posted some good info about he has videos and posts about the antibiotics that could be useful. So how to use them, how to benefit, I would check them out for that. But again, it really all comes back to metabolism, the flow of energy. So improving thyroid function is really at the core of digestion. Gut health, it's the reason we could ever have a digestion issue, or really any issue for that matter, is from a lack of systemic energy. This is why the same thing that impairs physical digestion is the same thing that impairs mental digestion. Um, but really, I think this should give you just a good picture of where to go with gut health if you're completely lost. And it's a constant process, especially if you're dealing with a long history. But there is hope, and there is always hope. And not to even sound cliche, but it legitimately is true. So I have been able to improve so much. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to improve from this, but after months of just sticking with it, it's not even like it was necessarily difficult. The only thing that was difficult was dealing with the symptoms. The actual getting there and improving, that part is simple. But just sticking through it is really the thing that's hard to do, because it's a month-long process. And it could be shorter for most people. It could be longer for most people, but really just having faith, turning to higher power, turning to God, turning to a belief that things are going to happen exactly how they need to, I think will actually allow it to happen. So I think that really just sticking with it was able to give me the ability to honestly live again, to be honest. Like, feel like I'm able to think. I really was. I didn't feel like I was able to think before. I just things come naturally now. I have more of a ability to see something through to the end, and I mean, it makes sense. The drive that you're given in your intuition, in your natural energy, it gets taken when you have an issue like this. So as Pete said, the degenerative diseases can begin in the earliest years of life, but because aging, like growth, is a developmental process, it's never too late to start the corrective process. So I'll leave it with that. And if you want to follow me, I talk more about digestion, metabolism, following your intuition, talk about aesthetics, post aesthetics. I like creating videos, like creating things. Like enjoying the flow of life and maintaining it. So again, thank you truly to everyone who's listening to this, and I appreciate it.